As of last lab, there are two autonomous system boundary routers in my topology. One is showing here as EIGRP, here R6 is ASBR introducing EIGRP into OSPF via redistribution. And there's also switch 1 in area 2, which redistributes connected networks into OSPF. However, the area 2 is NSSA, which means it prevents LSA type 5 from entering the area but allows the presence of ASBR. Redistribution introduces those external prefixes as NSSA prefixes, which is LSA type 7. If I look at this from the, let's say, perspective of router 4, let's see in the database what it looks like, because the, let's say, R6 is introducing a couple of prefixes. So if I go to R4 right now and do show IP OSPF database, let's see if there was a router here in area 3 to receive those prefixes. So let's say what R4 is introducing into area 3 as external prefixes. So these are type 5. These are advertised by R6, which is the redistribution here. And these are redistributed by switch, which actually router ID of switch 1 is 7777. However, R1 is a translator and introduces them as LSA type 5, which shows right here. So these are advertised, they look like they're advertised by R1, even though they're not. The reason being is because the LSA type 7 wouldn't be recognized by R4, but LSA type 5 are. So the translator shows as the originating router here, which is not entirely correct, but that's the way it's presented to the system. And obviously, the routers here in area 3 wouldn't know R6 or R1, so this LSA type 4, the summary ASB, is saying, hey, my name is router 4 and I know both R1 and R6. Now, so what I'm going to change here in this picture right now, one last thing is then let's see what the switch 1 is receiving currently as prefixes show IP route OSPF. And what it is not receiving is E type 1 from R6, because the area, let's go show run section router OSPF. Here area 2 is NSSA, so we have the same configuration on R3. Show run, let's say, section router OSPF. And on R1, which is the ABR, we have extra command here, so show run section router OSPF. So area 2 is NSSA, but R1 being ABR introduces default information originate command, which means that it becomes the gateway of last resort for the area 2. Otherwise, they wouldn't know how to reach those prefixes in EIGRP advertised by R6. Now I can further reduce the size of a routing table on R3 and switch 1. So let's say show IP route OSPF. If I make this area totally NSSA, so that's again like in a totally stubby area, Cisco add-on, we can add this flag here. So in that case, I would go back to R1, conft router OSPF 1, and I would say area 2 NSSA. Actually, I would remove no area 2 NSSA and default information originate. That leaves me with just do show run section router OSPF with NSSA without the default information originate, and I'm going to change it area 2 NSSA no-summary. Now this becomes the totally NSSA area, totally not so stubby area. What that means is that R3 and switch 1 won't receive the external prefixes from EIGRP world here, but they will also not be receiving the LSA type 3 inter area prefixes. Instead, the router 1 introduces itself as the gateway of last resort without the need for default information originate command. So if I go back to R3 and now compare the size of a routing table, I am only receiving NSSA NSSA prefixes, so type 7 from switch 1, and for everything else a default route is introduced as LSA type 3 and switch 1. Previously the routing table was significant, now just the default route in OSPF, and still the connectivity is available.